seen it in one of our previous videos. We did a little preview. It's time to start on the Sierra, and unfortunately for us, the engine's still not back with us, the replacement. We're sticking a Zetec 2-litre blacktop engine in, and we are TD04 turbo converting, and hopefully reach about 250 to 280 horsepower. But first up, what we're going to do is remove the engine. I mean, it's not ideal, but as we're still waiting for the other engine to come, the new one, but it makes a start and it gets us a little closer to where we need to be. I've already built the turbo manifold, which I made a video on. That's up on the channel already, so take a look at that. Might interest you, but yeah, stay tuned. Well, we're just going to get stuck straight into it and start taking these air boxes and stuff off. Try and clear some room so we can see what other stuff we have to do. We're going to drop the engine and gearbox out in one. So we'll probably have to remove the bonnet. In fact, we will be removing the bonnet. All the water lines, the radiator, and making some room for an intercooler and an upgraded radiator. So let's go. Right, it's time to take the exhaust off. There's not much to do on here. There's a couple of U-bolts or U-clamps or whatever you want to call them. And I think the exhaust is like 2.25 inch. Some 13 mils I'm undoing at the minute. So, yeah, nothing extravagant there. But sorry it's not so in-depth on here. I just wanted to whip the engine out as quick as possible. I'm under a bit of a time crunch. But I do the best I can with what I've got. it's a bit part thing, whereas I'm waiting for parts, I'm waiting for go-aheads and this, that, and the other. It's a bit frustrating, but I can only do what I can at the time, so this is what I did. Next task is take the lambda sensor out, and it's a 22mm spanner on there. It was quite loose, it wasn't too bad. Most of the time they're C solid. You need to get some heat in there or some penetrating fluid like WD-40 or whatnot, but this one was rather easy. It's quite a new exhaust and in pretty good condition. This is a bit of a fair weather car, as you can probably see underneath. It still looks pretty much brand new. Probably the best Sierra I've seen in the last 15 or 20 years. I've worked on a few, but none as clean as this one. So everything was nice and easy to take off. Right, next up we're taking off the prop shaft, half shaft. I think they're about either a 19 or a 21mm. I can't remember off the top of my head. This is a few weeks ago before I went on holiday. So by the time this video comes out, it's probably been about a month since I touched this car. So I'm just going back through the footage and try and explain the best way I can. As I said earlier, I was trying to get this engine out as quick as possible because about a day later I went on holiday. So it's only been recently since we've had an engine land and been able to progress some more. So this is what we've taken so far. So you're probably wondering, Carl, why didn't you film taking the engine out? Well, it's because it was a bastard. I'm not going to lie. I did it by myself. Took 2-3 hours to take the gearbox off alone because it was stuck on so many different things, taking all the shifter out from inside the car and everything. It ain't exactly an MX-5, this thing. I mean, it was literally a pain in the arse and it fought me every way. But that engine, as I said, is not important. What is important is when we get the Zetec dropped in, and I'll be a bit more in depth on that. So sorry if you missed this part, but it is what it is. I've still got to get work done, and me taking the engine out is not really great content, to be honest, because you might not even have one of them engines in there because they're quite rare. But the main thing is I'm going to show you how to Zetec a Sierra, not take an engine out of one. So it is what it is. Well, it's been a few weeks since we last touched the Sierra. But in the meantime, well, since then, I've been on holiday, got older, fatter, uglier, finished the Clio off, and we didn't quite get the engine finished. But today is D-Day. The new Zetec that's going in the Sierra has landed. Thank God. It's been emotional. And there it is. Quite a rare find. 50,000 mile. Mark 1 2-litre Zetec black top engine. This has been away, stripped down, inspected by the legendary Ron Jones, as I call him, Telford's Carroll Shelby. He's inspected it all, played with the top end a little bit, new valve springs and stuff, stiffer ones, and out of silver top Zetec, I believe. I don't get too involved with all that stuff, but block's been painted, and yeah, we've got to try and figure out how we can get this to convert to rear-wheel drive. I mean, obviously we've got the Sierra's gearbox to go on, which is the MT75, which is over here. As you can see, the unit's a bit of a shithole at the minute. This is the Sierra's gearbox. We're doing a bit of body work on our personal MX-5. There's a Sierra tucked away, ready to take on this new engine. So first things first, we've got a 2-litre Zetec flywheel, and we're going to try and stick that on. And this is all going to be trial and error because it's a bit vague. People use different stuff. It's quite rare to use an MT75 gearbox. A lot of people use the 4 Type 9. I've never rear-wheel drived a converted a Zetec before. I mean, I've turbocharged a fair few of them, but it's here and we need to figure it out. Right, so we've got 6 flywheel bolts and they are 19mm. So first things first, we're going to blast these in. And this is all just for mock-up. We're not getting too caught up with fitting up. We're just here to prove what the process is going to be and what we're going to use for the job. And then we'll go from there. So a lot of things are just going to be loosely fitted up. Or mocked up, however you want to call it. We'll find out what works. And then we'll go to get into putting things in properly. I mean, obviously there's got to be a cover plate and stuff on here, but that's not important at the minute. We're going to stick the 2 litre clutch on. Then we're going to try and mate up the gearbox. Gearbox should mount straight up to this block. It's been done time and time again, but a lot of people don't really tell you what hardware they use to make this work. I mean, some use Mondeo clutches, but you can buy an off-the-shelf kit, but it's about £1,000. And that comes with a custom flywheel and whatnot, so that's just not an option. So we're going to basically use Ford parts like Lego. And there's not a lot of difference between a lot of manufacturers using parts that can cross-reference with different models. Volkswagens, Hondas, Fords, Vauxhalls. They're going to make something that fits and will work. So we're here to figure out what that is. So that's on. Clutch time. Right, so now we've got the clutch. Don't panic, we're not using an old second-hand clutch. We're just using it to prove a point, and then it'll probably have a Focus RS clutch or something put in it. Something that'll handle the power. The main thing is getting things to work first, because that's half the battle. Clutch alignment tool, that sat in there, or you can use a 14mm socket, long one, make your job easier. It's all about proving the point and what we can use. Don't worry too much about what parts we're using at the minute. Not quite sat right, but I'll sort that out in a minute. There we go, that's better. There we go. Pop goes the weasel. Mils. this off a bit, get this lined up. It's about straight there. Right, so that's the clutch on. If I take you off here a minute, you see it's banged down the middle, winning. Being that we're going rear wheel drive, you probably noticed that it's got some fancy sump on it. And this is a retro Ford rear wheel drive Zetec conversion sump. And it comes with a funky new relocated dipstick tube. I mean, that doesn't quite fit there because the inlet manifold goes on here. We're using the stock 2-litre inlet manifold, and it's about 20mm thick from the face to the end. So that'll bolt nice. And then obviously we're turbocharging it, so they give you the option of another fitting at the bottom for your oil drain. And that's something we've figured out here. It's got to take a little bit off because it doesn't quite sit in there properly. So I'll take some of this face off here and that will screw into there for the oil drain. This oil breather here, I'm going to figure that out. That's going to sit nicely in there, and then I'll make that and I'll go to a catch can or into a breather box or something. So it's all trial and error and figuring stuff out. So I'll try and make it as simple as possible for you guys to follow along, and then I'll give you measurements of stuff, what we use, and try and make this as easy as possible because I haven't found too many videos which have helped me out all too much. So you're welcome. Winning. Right, so we have the gearbox ready to go into position, and if you watch any of the Clio videos, you know how much of a torrid time we had with that. But this measures about 70mm from the flywheel to back of the clutch plate, pressure plate, and it's about 90mm on the old engine. So there's a good chance that we're going to have to adapt the pivot point for the clutch fork. I mean, it's no real biggie. It's like a pressed in piece here, but what we'll do is, if we have to, that is, press that out, tap this part of the box here and make it adjustable, and weld up the little pivot ball to the end of a piece of threaded bar, because then we can make it adjustable. So wish me luck, and hopefully I don't give myself an hernia. I can already see this is going to go to shit. Didn't need that bit anyway. So you can see if it bolts up. Shit the bed. Right, the wood's in the way. I tried to prop it up and make my job and my life a little bit easier, but yeah. Things don't tend to go easier for me. So I'm going to readjust this because it ain't never going on with that one. Get that there. It's such an odd shaped gearbox. Oh, yes. Oh, she's nearly in there. So it's going to mount up. I need something like a jack underneath this to make the box sit up and align it better. Right, I've got the jack in place now, so hopefully she's going to wobble into place. Hopefully, fingers crossed. My contortion skills are not the best. Nope, completely lost the jack. It's rolled out the way. That really isn't going to help me. So, bear with me while I figure this shit out. Well, after about 20 minutes of piss farting around with positioning, the box actually bolted up quite nice. I had a feeling the dowels weren't going to marry up, but they totally do. I just had to figure out what sequence it wanted to go in. But there's 4 bolts in now. There's obviously a few more that's got to go in and around. Obviously the starter motor and stuff has got to go in, so we need to figure out what starter motor we need to use. And as for the clutch fork, it's nowhere near. So, a little theory about modifying the positioner, the knuckle, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know the actual name of it. The little pillar ball thing. We're going to have to do that so we can get some more movement. There's about 20 mil to make up. I mean, there's literally no clutch engagement going to happen in its current position. So if you come round here, right there, we need to press the ball out for the clutch fork. But as you can see, the MT75 bolts up nice. And if you come round here, awkward spot. I mean, it touches the clutch, but that's not quite going to work. So, yeah, we need to modify that. So, box off. It means that we can, by the look of it, if this little mod works, looks like we can use a Focus RS Mark 1 clutch, Zetec clutch. So that's a win. Right, box is back off, and we come up against our first issue, and that being, this is where the flywheel sits. Sorry, the starter motor sits. And the Zetec one doesn't bolt up to the gearbox, but the original one for the old engine does. But as you can see, here is where we wanted to put our oil drain for the turbo. So as you can see, that's absolutely not going to work. So the old dipstick port's been blocked off, so that's redundant, so we can't do nothing with that now because it's going on the other side. Obviously that can't go in there anymore. So we need to figure that out. Then we've also got to figure out inside the gearbox and the pivot arm. So we've only got like that much throw, but we need about another 20 mil or so. I'll have to figure out how this comes off, but this needs to come off here. And then we're going to have to extend that ball here, what the clutch fork sits on, so we can get another, say, 20 mil of thrust. So, not all plain sailing. We knew he was going to come up with some issues, or come up against some issues, should I say, but we need to iron them out. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Right, so we managed to get the thrust bearing off, and the clutch fork. Figured this just slides onto here. So it wasn't really any biggie. So that slides on there. So that's on there then, and then that sort of just clips onto the arm. So that's simple. But as you can see, here's the pillar ball we're on about. So that needs to be tapped out because this needs to be adjusted. So our throw can start here. It gives us more leverage. If we can do that, it should work just how we want it. In theory, everything's in theory. But I'm going to try and tap this out. And we'll probably tap the actual hole that it sits in, because that's pressed in, and then weld some threaded bar to make it adjustable. So then we should be able to adjust it to bite out as we want. So right, so what we're going to do is going to tap this pivot ball out. So and take a decent punch, copper mallet, just gently persuade her out. Pop goes a weasel, and voila, as they say in France. Job's a good one. So what we're going to do now is tap this hole, then weld some threaded bar in here, because then we can screw it in, set it to where we want it, make a mark, then we can either Loctite it in, or we can just adjust it from the back, however we want to adjust it really. So we'll cross that bridge and see if it works first. So winning. Right, so this is where we're going to start getting creative. So basically you've got your pillar ball here, if that's what it's called, your pivot ball for your clutch fork. And we know we're about 20 mil difference on this flywheel to the last one for the other engine that this originally had. So that sits in there like so. But what we're going to do is we've made up the difference and we've added about another 15-20 millimeters on. So that's going to go in there like that, but that's not going to work. So we're going to round the end of this bolt off, so it sort of replicates this, and just test the theory. So let's go. Right, so fresh off the grinder, we've now got our new pivot ball. As you can see, that's the bottom edge, which sits inside the gearbox, and that sits flush to this point here, whereas we're making our own. And from that point to that point at the top, so that difference there is about 20 millimeters, but the aim is to make this adjustable to give us a bit more throw if we need it. And then that sits in there. I mean, this is just to prove a point. We'll actually go and tap this hole and use an M12 instead of an M10 because that shouldn't slide in there, and on the back edge there's no room to put a nut on the end, so that's not going to work. So an M12 and a thread is going to work. So this basically sits in there now and can pivot how it needs to, same as this. I mean, neither one of them are smooth, but it's only got to serve its purpose, and that profile that was made here is pretty much the same as the profile on this, or as near as, damn it. So this can come off now, go into its little point there, and slide this over. There, the clutch fork. So that slots in now as it needs to. Thrust bearing on. So that's on. So now, if that was fixed, we've got that extra 20mm we need. So I think this could actually be a win, but we won't know until we mount the gearbox back up to the block. So you know how much of a pain in the arse that is, but needs to be done to test the theory out. So let's go. Little change of plan. I did put an O-ring there, so we use it as a little stopper so the pillar ball doesn't fall out on the inside. But I just spoke to the owner of the car and he says just grind out a little bit on here so you can get an actual nut on the end, so we can use the M10s. So that works out better for me, really. So we're going to do that instead. Then we can put a nut on there and then we can adjust it in and out as we see fit. So yeah, winning. Right, so now we have our new pillar ball, adjustable and bolted to the box. So there it is, in there, sitting pretty, all now adjustable. So if this works, it can stay as it is. If not, we can make a longer one and still use this M10 without drilling and tapping it out. So happy days. I mean, if this works, we'll take this off and Loctite it so it won't come off again. So it'll be flapping around inside the box, and we'll do that on the inside first and then the outside secondly once it's in place. So we need to get the gearbox mounted back up to the block now and see if it works. That's the first one done of the Sierra, first episode should I say. We've achieved what we set out to achieve, which is get the clutch working and figuring that out. We've got the starter motor turning the engine over, that's why the batteries are here. So it engages the flywheel as it should, it sits where it should. The only thing that sort of pissed me off a little bit is I was going to use the one side of the dipstick where they're going to use the dipstick on the retro Ford sump. I was going to use that as an oil return, but now the starter motor's in place, that's not an option anymore. So I've got to drill and tap the sump, which yeah, I wish I would have known this beforehand, but it is what it is. We'll figure that out. As I said, clutch works as it should, so I'll have a nice Focus RS one, Mark 1 Focus RS clutch in. It engages gears as it should, and yeah, can't ask for more than that really. You have no idea how many times I've tried to do this outro, so this is how it's going to be. So it's not my best work, as you can probably tell if you've watched any of my other videos, but please like, share, subscribe. It helps. I'm trying to chase my first 500 subscribers. I'm not exactly Mr. Beast yet, but he wasn't born with millions, was he? So it is what it is. So hope you enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace out.